Hey guys, what's going on? It's Eli, back with another review video. And yes guys, you read the title. You know exactly what it is that I am now about to review, and as was clearly teased in the last review video, I'm sure you figured it out right away. Yes. This film, definitely another movie masterpiece, this being a biopic, and how it depicts, a very loyal, brave general in the United States Army, and whom commanded the 7th Army, and then would serve for the 3rd Army, command them and such, all during World War II, defending our country and taking down the Nazis, yeah. And I'm, of course, talking about George S. Patton, yes. And, yeah, just this movie that was brought to life by two genius talents behind the camera. The director of the film, Franklin J. Schaffner, yeah, I think I said his last name right, and the man who's responsible for doing the screenplay and all that. He did his research on, what to do and how to bring this movie to life on paper. Francis Ford Coppola, of course, and this is before he would do, say, The Godfather. Yes, guys, I am now finally reviewing 1970s Patton. Yes, and you saw the thumbnail on account of my Blu-ray copy. Yes, that's right. Oh, man. Patton, again, just without a doubt, a movie masterpiece. And definitely in the lineup of some of the best and greatest films to star the legendary actor himself, George C. Scott, whom he portrays the title character himself. And not to mention that, George C. Scott's Patton being featured in the top 50 list of the Heroes and Villains, AFI. If you know about this, yeah, it's true. Yeah. And with the first things I have to say about 1970s Patton, well, I had known about this movie for quite a long time. As I recall, yeah, one of my first early exposures to Patton, well, would have to be, say, the defunct Disney's Hollywood Studios attraction, The Great Movie Ride. If you remember, because at the end of the ride, they play that montage of all the movies, and one of them most prominently being Straight from Patton, where, George C. Scott stands there and with a big American flag behind him, and that's literally the opening of this movie, that great speech he delivers as Patton, and giving us a salute, yeah. So, I had known about that, and I had, a few times, watched the opening, to Patton. But, Patton being one of those movies I never got around to until now, to have the chance to finally sit down, watch the entirety of it, this movie almost being up to, say, 3 hours long. But, of course, the running time of this movie really being, say, 2 hours and 58 minutes, so, yeah. And not to mention, I'll go ahead and mention this, the fact that this movie, and being one of those early films to literally have an intermission, and for 1 or 2 minutes, the intermission's going on, and a bit of music plays, and with Jerry Goldsmith, yes, because to go ahead and mention him, since I just did, yeah, Jerry Goldsmith, right there next to, say, John Williams and Danny Elfman, being a legendary, music writer, doing a lot of great music scores, and, yeah, because Jerry Goldsmith's music in Patton is, of course, fantastic, because he's Jerry Goldsmith, and especially since we know him best for having done a lot of music for Star Trek, and just need I go on, yeah. And yeah, because how this movie depicts Patton, well, because General George S. Patton Jr., was known for, there were two versions of him. One, he was very aggressive, very harsh, acting like a tough general, and having known to have slapped two soldiers. But another part of him that people really likes and admires is that he was such a great leading man, you know, serving for the army, commanding them and such, and just attempted to take down the Germans and all that. Yeah, which, of course, yeah, that's good to see, but what it's really like for those that were under his command, not so good. And as the film would proceed, oh yeah, it just gets so complicated, so intense, but they stick with him to the end, even when, unfortunately, towards the end of the movie, he's let go of. Yeah. But yeah, just, you know, I mean, I had a great time watching this, and just to see what this was like and all of its glory, great acting, and the settings, the locations, Jerry Goldsmith's music and score, the way this movie was shot, you know, moments that, yeah, I mean, technically you'd expect to happen, and if you know your history of World War II, and on account of General George S. Patton Jr., knowing about the history and facts about him and what it was like when, yeah, he was in command, maybe if any of you did that research before, maybe, say, having seen the movie, yeah. But, I mean, of course, the movie definitely helps with knowing a lot about the general himself. Yep. And I'd say, yeah, because, like, with what Francis Ford Coppola did for Patton, yeah, he knew exactly what he was doing. And he did a very good job with what he wrote for the screenplay. Yeah. But yeah, and of course with great cast of talents, most prominently George C. Scott, but yeah, and I'll mention the rest of the cast momentarily. But just to round off with the first things I've had to say about Patton, it's a well-put biopic, all about the general himself, who served our country, attempting to take down the Nazis once and for all. He was just determined to take down their asses and spill their guts out and all that. And as he says in his speech, it's true. Yeah, well, he means business. He means by his words. Yeah. And yeah, just those that were a part of this movie, whom they portrayed, most prominently George, and with what Coppola and Franklin brought to this movie, 20th Century Fox, Jerry Goldsmith's music and score. Need I go on? Just, yeah, it's a well-put biopic all about the general himself, a movie masterpiece, and right as the 1970s started, just, yeah, it's excellent. Okay, so with the first things I've had to say about Patton now out of the way, now, as always, for me, read the description / the story. Biograph of controversial World War II hero, General George S. Patton Jr. The film covers his wartime activities and accomplishments, beginning with his entry into the North African campaign, and ending with his removal from command after his outspoken criticism of U.S. post-war military strategy. Okay, so now with reading the description / the story out of the way, well, let's now dive in / break down the film itself. Yep. Well, yeah, because the opening speech, like, literally, the way this movie opens, we cut straight to the movie, where we get our opening speech from the general himself, being played by, again, the late legendary George C. Scott. Yep, the film opening with Patton delivering an unforgettable and profound, yeah, I said that right, speech before a large American flag establishing his command presence, and the film's raw tone. Yeah, the speech that George delivers as Patton is so memorable, such an iconic moment. And for this being the start of this movie, literally, it's just amazing. Yeah, just that amazing great voice that George C. Scott has, and, you know, America loves a winner and will not tolerate a loser. I could do a pretty good, decent George C. Scott. It's just amazing, and, you know, because amazingly filmed. Just George C. Scott right there. and with that huge American flag, we don't see anybody out in the crowd. I mean, we can hear them in the background, and when, attention, you may be seated, we can hear some noise off camera. But, and the fact that he delivers this speech right before he's heading off, most prominently starting with Morocco. So, that was a great way to start off the film. Then the opening credits start to play. And back then, because, a lot of the credits played before, after the movie finished, and, well, when the movie does finish, the remaining credits we get is basically the cast members in order of appearance. That's it. All right, also, yes, defeat at Kazarin Pass, because, and in their major combat, Patton's Second Corps is defeated by the German forces under Field Marshal Erwin Rommel. And definitely Patton is determined to take down this Erwin guy, who's a field marshal, and a setback that serves as a turning point for the general and the Allied forces in North Africa. And, and to talk about, and to go ahead and mention some of the other cast members, because we also have, say, General Omar N. Bradley, played by Carl Malden, Captain Chester B. Hansen, played by Stephen Young, Brigadier, if I said that right, General Hubbard Carver, I'm pretty sure I got that right, played by Michael Strong. There's also General Bradley's driver, being played by Carrie Lofton. And General Omar N. Bradley is one of the big top characters right next to General George in this movie. And because the chemistry that each of them have is pretty good at times, even when, they're in the line of duty, because, even Bradley, and how far we go into the movie, because Bradley knows that George is a piece of work and is out of his mind, with what he's doing. And Carl Malden, another fantastic actor, because, he was fantastic in this, with no doubt, right next to George C. Scott. And there's also Lieutenant Colonel Henry Davenport, played by Frank Lattimore, Captain Richard N. Jensen, played by Morgan Paul, Field Marshal, there he is, Field Marshal Aaron Rommel, being played by Carl Michael Volger, and there's General Patton's driver, played by Bill Hickman. And to go ahead and bring this up, because whenever, we would come to say the Germans, the Nazis, and of course they're speaking in German language, because them being well aware of Patton, and they too are determined to take down Patton once and for all. So those sequences, whenever we would come to the Nazis, are some pretty good ones to see the villain's point of view and all that. That's always great to see, what they're going through, and of course the difference between the bad ones and with the good ones, you know what I'm saying? In battle, and in the case of World War II. I love that. And also, there's also Sergeant William George Meeks, who, it seems though that, Patton has a good liking to Sergeant William George Meeks, and sometimes we see George helping out the general with some things, and the sergeant being played by James Edwards, and James Edwards, he too was pretty good in this, with how much he had in this movie. Then there would be another big top character that Patton would also take a liking to, and have him be, right next to him at times. Lieutenant Colonel Charles R. Codeman. They always call him by his last name. And Charles being played by Paul Stevens. And Paul Stevens, he too, was fantastic in this as well. Alright, but to get back on, say, the moments and all that in the film, because, because I already talked about defeat at, where. Let's go ahead and mention about the slapping incidents, because, if you know about this, knowing your history about what the general was like in reality and so on, and with this movie depicting, because the slapping incidents, Patton slapping two separate soldiers suffering from shell shock in the field, hospital, leading to public outrage and his temporary removal from command. So, because of what he did, that put him in a bad spotlight, and he would eventually have to apologize for his actions and being harsh on those two separate soldiers. Yeah, because, I mean, the fact that he has been, like, at times we see him being polite and nice to some of the soldiers, even right before he confronts the one soldier, and, like, he's crying and breaking down. He goes up to this one soldier who has got all bandages on him and mask, and it's very quiet for a brief moment, and, like, I guess, yeah, giving, like, a badge and such, and whispering something into that soldier's ear. We never know what it is, but, yeah. But that was a nice moment right there. But then right after that, we come to where he slaps one of the soldiers. Yeah, because from what I can tell, like, from when watching the movie, he was, like, slapping him on the top of his helmet. Yeah, maybe a little bit on his face and how he was, doing that, but yeah. But again, that was not a good move on Patton. But, the thing is that it's obvious that Patton, not suffering fools. No siree. Being that kind of tough, general, high command and such in the U.S. Army. Yeah, that really shows. But, I mean, it's not that, he's a bad man. No, because, he's just really determined to take down the bad guys' asses, pretty much, And yeah, because, like, so many great deliveries from George C. Scott. Like, whenever he swears or, GD or damn in hell, just a great actor like George C. Scott delivers it so great, And not to mention that the movie at times does have some pretty good funny moments here and there, but yeah. But yeah, just how that put a huge damper on Patton's position. Now he would temporarily be relieved, but he would soon find his way back in command and such, even with the help of, say, Bradley, technically. Oh, not to mention that many times in this movie, they mention the president, Ike. If you know, you know what Ike stands for. I mean, it's just like, say, I can most prominently think of, say, Indiana Jones 4, when Indy says, "I like Ike." Yeah, that's a good example right there with the mentioning of Ike. But you of course, know the whole thing of Ike. Okay. Yeah, because, like, we never see Ike on camera, and unless if they considered it, and if they wanted to have someone that looked very decently accurate to Ike, but no, because he's mentioned, and, of course, Ike being well aware of what goes on with Patton in this movie, all the traveling that Patton and his fellow soldiers take in order to take down the Nazis, just, yeah. Okay, and the decoy for the invasion of France, yeah, because while his rival, Montgomery, if I think I mispronounced it, but again, me sometimes, leads the Normandy invasion, Patton is sidelined and used a decoy, commanding a fictitious, yeah, if I said that right, army in London to mislead German intelligence about the actual invasion plans. Yeah. And yeah, because, like, the many travels that Patton and his fellow soldiers take, not to mention that, he does very well at times in, getting along with those, like, from, say, Morocco to Italy and so on. But the Russians, yeah, he finds them being sons of bitches, as he says, But, I mean, nothing really bad happens, like with him and the Russians and all that. But, yeah. I mean, yeah, because as the film proceeds, like, how we start to see that, geez, Patton is such a tough piece of work, and, yeah, just, seriously, what more do I have to say on him? But at the same time, look, still a loyal, faithful, general in the United States Army without a doubt. Okay, and what to talk and mention about next? Well, because right before, say we would be then introduced to Codman, Patton would meet with Codman, well, because there was one higher up in the Army that sadly died in the line of duty, and there's a little funeral that is held for him. Yeah, Captain Richard N. Jensen, yeah. And again, being played by Morgan Paul, because, yeah, unfortunately, he fell in the line of duty, but yeah, I mean, he served his country, and, Patton saying a couple of words for him, and the fact that they don't really have that much, like a proper coffin or anything like that. They'll do their very best. Yeah. Also, at one point later on in the film, Patton would adopt a dog by first calling him William, but then calling him Willie, because at one point the dog is scared of another, tiny fluffy dog, and yeah, thus he's now named Willie. But that dog was cute, and a loyal companion for Patton and such. And even at times when Codman attends to Willie. Anyways. Okay, so then, so other key moments to mention, because the decoy role, because again, after being relieved from command, Patton is made the commander of the fictitious, if I said that right, 1st United States Army Group in London to deceive the Germans into believing the Allied invasion, would come from there. And also the Battle of the Bulge, the film depicting Patton and his staff's quick thinking to relieve the Bishid, if I think I'm mispronouncing it, but again, me sometimes. The 101 1st Airborne Division in Bastogne. And by the way, because to talk about the action-packed scenes, because it's like when at one point Patton meets with Air Vice Marshal Sir Arthur Cunningham, being played by John Barry, because the conversations that each of them have, and with the mentioning of no planes flying by or all that, right as they're talking about it, well, that's when the Nazis strike, and quite intense. And with the explosions, Patton determined to take them down, even when he has to shoot one of his rifles, his guns. And because him carrying pistols, that was another thing that he would sometimes always carry around with him. And come on, you bastards! Oh man, George C. Scott, fantastic. And some long extended battles that would happen out in the fields, which they were pretty good, of course, Just seeing all the explosions, the Americans against the Germans fighting and all that, it was amazing. And, and just with some dark stuff happening here and there, and the dark moments that I can think of most prominently, at one point they're struggling with a wagon on the bridge, and on account of 2 horses, and Patton puts them down! Literally, just like that, because he had his reason, but and to see that, we see that they throw/toss those horses off the bridge and in the river. Just, man. I'd like to think that probably those weren't actual horses, but anyways. And to name some of the other cast members, because there's also Air Chief Marshal Sir Arthur Tedder, being played by Gerald Flood, and there's General Sir Harold Alexander, being played by Jake Gwilym, and he was another big character and had a lot of interactions with Patton, and on account of Ike, Major General Walter Bedell Smith, being played by Edward Binns. That is him, so and also 3rd Army Chaplain, played by Lionel Merton, Colonel John Welkin, played by Peter Barkworth, Clergyman, being played by David Healy. And I recognize some of them, like the secondary cast members and all that, from David Healy. Sandy McPeak, who plays Correspondent. I'm looking at his IMDb profile, because he was in an episode of Batman. He was one of the Catwoman's henchmen. That, leopard skin jacket getup and all that, if you've seen that. But anyways. Because have to mention him, because, Tom Cassidy, if I said that right, who is credited as the soldier who gets slapped. Well, that's one good way to know which it is and such, And, it's cute, because, the dog being credited, of course. Willie, his actual name being Arabic's Iran, if I said that right, But, any dog actor, actress is always a delight, and they're so good, anyways. But just, just still as overall, like, because as the film proceeds, just things getting more intenseful, and how the soldiers in the 7th Army to the 3rd Army are feeling towards Patton, and that he's gone mad, and the way he's giving commands just, ugh, man. Well, I mean, that's how he was, but, yeah, and again, because, like, when, like, say, Patton's interacting with the Russians, because it's, it's quite humorous, and, calling a higher-up in Russia just, like, a son of a bitch, but, yeah, I mean, things seem to escalate, because, they seem to be okay, and they drink to it and all that, because with their arms, just, yeah. But anyways, but to still speed things up some, and, yeah, because, because by that point, Patton, he'd made his way into the 3rd Army, and it was thanks to Brad whom got him in there, but not exactly, because Bradley made it clear to Patton at one point that it was Ike that picked him and all that. But still, as time goes on and in the events of this movie, it just gets more intenseful for Patton with what he is commanding and all that to his fellow soldiers, and even up to, say, the 3rd Army. Oh, and another thing I meant to mention, like, some very interesting and nice stories that Patton would share at times, like old wars from centuries ago, and him claiming that he was there. He was there when those wars happened, that happened in, say, BC, AD, and all that, and on account of, like, say, the Romes and so on, just, yeah. I mean, just overall, because, like, the stories that Patton shares and the various locations they go to and where those wars happened, pretty good, yeah, pretty good. A pretty good storyteller, Patton is, for sure. And obviously, yeah, him being that way in reality. Okay, and now let's talk about, say, what gets him in trouble again. Because, yeah, very later on in the film, and even when, say, they're making good progress, and by the point when Patton becomes a part of the 3rd Army in high command and such, and, they've been making progress, and, is very pleased with his fellow soldiers that he is commanding and so on. Well, and yeah, because, like, it's obvious that with this movie, yes, because it takes place through the years and through the 1940s decade, and after the war, well, and even say, yeah, where we do see where the Germans are falling, and even when they were still attempting to try to take down Patton, well, it's obvious that, yeah, they were outnumbered, and, even when one of them said they were planning to kill themselves, just like how their fearless leader, Adolf Hitler, was going to do as well, yeah, which, as we all know, Hitler and his partner, Ava, like, they both killed each other. So, yeah, I mean, they both killed themselves, I should say, yeah. So, yeah, after the war, the post-war comments. Patton's outspokenness would get him in trouble again when he makes comments about, comparing American politics to Nazism. And, even Patton making it clear that, he's not involved in politics and so on. I get his point, but yeah, not a good idea. And since he's a part of the U.S. Army and all that, just, yeah. So this, once again, puts a big damper on Patton's career for sure. And a little later on, this would eventually get him relieved of duty, no longer serving the 3rd Army whatsoever. Yep. Yeah, and like, towards the end of the film, because with him disembarking and saying goodbye to his fellow comrades, I'm sure, yeah, because it's obvious that they're sad for him to go. And with how loyal they've been to him the best they could, despite the fact that obviously, yeah, all of them being well aware that he could be very complicated and really quite a tough general, but at the same time, a good loyal one, doing his damnest to, take down the Nazis whatsoever. Indeed. But yeah, so, final moments between, like, say, Patton and Bradley. Even Bradley, very kindful of him to ask Patton to have dinner with him at 6:30, basically. and them just walking around, and man, because close call, like, Patton almost had a collision with a cart, coming in with wheels, But, yeah, I mean, of course he's okay, and thanks to Bradley, he saved him, so, got him out of the way. And yeah, because Patton walking his dog, and, yeah, I mean, even though he's been disqualified and, technically expelled, he still did a great job, and he will be definitely missed. And the closing speech, because as Patton walks off, the closing speech he delivers, the film ending off with a contemplative, scene showing Patton reflecting on the nature of glory, referencing the ancient Roman triumph, and a slave who whispered a reminder of the feeling nature of fame. Yeah. That was a great way to end it off, And just with that final closing speech Patton delivers, that opening speech he delivered right at the start of the film, and with the closing speech, fantastic. And of course, Patton would have to have the first and last lines of the film, since this is his movie, you know what I'm saying? Just like, yeah, just overall, because Patton itself, from 1970, with all that I've had to say, best I could, it's a fantastic, well-put biopic all about the general himself, whom served our country, attempting to take down the Nazis, the Germans, and in the end, we did so. And of course, the general would be proud of that, of course. Not to mention that Patton himself, because, he died, the same decade as World War II was happening, and because Patton himself, sadly died of a congestive heart failure. That's a shame, but in the end, the impact he left on serving our dear holy country, and with what this movie depicts, nobody will forget this man, George Patton himself, being a big part of American history. Yeah, he did his duty for sure. Oh, and here's the thing, because, he managed to live longer still to see that, that same year when he died, World War II did come to an end in September of 1945, as we know. And a few months later, in December, he sadly passed away. But, overall, it's great to see that he lived to see that we won. We took down the enemies and so on. Yeah. And as he was hoping to do so, he was attempted to take down their asses and all that, and as he specifically says in the movie, But, again, just overall, 1970s Patton is a fantastic movie, biopic and such, all about George Patton. Everything about this movie from beginning to end, the storyline, and with Francis Ford Coppola having done the screenplay, and with the director, Franklin J. Schaffner, his direction for this movie, beautiful camera work, the cinematography, Jerry Goldsmith's music and score, the atmosphere, the locations, the settings, and with great cast of talents from George C. Scott, of course, Carl Malden, Stephen Young, Michael Strong, Morgan Paul, Carl Michael Volger, and, of course, I have to acknowledge, Codman himself, Paul Stevens. The list goes on, The funny moments, the, intenseful moments here and there, a bit of emotional stuff here and there, and with what goes on with the 7th Army to the 3rd Army under the command of Patton himself, what Patton is like, and how he's depicted in this movie, being a loyal, serving general, but man, going over to the top a lot of times, and but he still did his duty, that's for sure. Just, everything about Patton is fantastic, all of the above. And I'm giving 1970s Patton, well, what the heck? I mean, is it obvious? 10 out of 10 stars. Yes, 10 out of 10 stars for 1970s Patton. And what about you guys? What did you think of Patton itself? When did you first learn about the general himself? I mean, did you know it from, like, say, I guess, school, or did some research online? And if you did that before or after, say, seeing the movie itself? And yeah, because if you thought the movie, how it depicted all that happened with the general himself in World War II and in the 1940s and such, yeah, do you think it was pretty well done? And for those of you that are into the history of World War II and such, yeah, favorite lines, quotes, sequences, moments that come from this movie, your favorite talents, you know, most prominently George C. Scott himself, and not to mention, he would win an Oscar for this movie, for his performance as the general, rightfully so, yeah. And just, yeah, and if this would be one of your top favorite movies, and, you know, also your top favorite biopic films, especially those that, you know, depict the events that happened to everybody, you know, serving during World War II. Yeah, but just overall, what do you think of Patton itself with what all I've had to say, my review, and yeah, what did you think of my review? Leave comments and give this review video a like, as always. And so, guys, with all that being said, thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed my review of 1970s Patton. More review videos are coming your way. They're going to be awesome. Keep looking forward, and I will see you guys in the next video / review. And, well, stay tuned, because what I will be reviewing next, well, it's another really good movie that really, and on account of the film's director, like the love of cinema, movies, and all that, and yeah, Peter Jackson bringing to life the giant, almighty ape himself to the big screen. Yeah, you know exactly what it is that I'm talking about. Just, yeah, again, stay tuned for that. Take care, and peace out.